Ready?
What? Are we really doing it?
Yeah.
Yay!
All right, here we go.
We're okay. The new studio's
Hey,
operating.
everybody.
Happy New Year, 2022.
Wow.
Hi, Brian.
New things. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Good. I also want to say hi to Bob. Just wanted to say hi really quick. We're kind of going to still stick to our segments. The Tea Time with Tanya and Observatory Talk with Brian.
Indeed.
But here's our new studio, everybody.
Hey, look at it.
Look at. We finally got it into a permanent situation. We had it in a temporary situation because Scott really wanted to see if it was going to work before we invested any more money in putting it in a permanent situation.
Well, so the all that nice stuff that we had in the last one, that was actually kind of Scott's personal area.
Exactly.
And he wasn't super thrilled about it, but now we have this.
Now this is our space.
Now this is our space.
Yes,
That's correct.
and we did. Scott and I did demolition on it last week.
That's true.
Yeah, I had some drywall fall on me. Not fun.
That's terrible.
Not fun at all. But this is it, and I like it. I like it. We can change it up whenever we want to.
We can.
We might have some different looks throughout the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got some nice little props and everything.
Well, we're gonna have to sort of, you can see like we have this in color thing. We have a lot of vintage things. Mm-hmm. We just got to sort of tune up some of our background lighting, which we're gonna do. It'll be a lot better the next time that you see
right.
this.
So welcome.
All right, so we're gonna jump right into it. Bob, we're gonna come back to Bob in just a little bit because the theme of this kind of episode is talking about kind of getting the most out of your mount, maintaining, cleaning, keeping things working, keeping it protected, right?
Right. So you can get the most out of your mount. I mean, this is a mount that can last a lifetime.
Yeah.
For you.
And Bob, of course, is Mr. Telegizmos. And I personally am a huge fan of Telegizmos covers. I use them on all of our mounts, not only my personal mounts, but the mounts that we end up having to test over a night or a couple nights. You know, we use them to protect them there.
Right.
And a lot of my friends use them. And in chatting with Bob, it turns out there's a lot of things to think about and to know about these covers. They're not just sort of throw them on and forget them. There's a lot of things you can do to help improve things.
Right.
So that's really nice.
I found out about telegizmos when I worked for one of our dealers, Oceanside Photo and Telescope, and so we sold a lot of them. That's how I found out about telegizmos. And
nice.
Bob just bought a GM811 from us.
That's true.
Yeah, and he received it. I want to say like last October or something. Is that correct, Bob?
Last year, I think it was around March.
Okay. It was a little bit earlier in the year.
February or March, yeah.
Okay. So then Bob and I started, we were talking on the phone all the time and stuff. And then I asked him if he would come on, and he said he would. So thank you for doing this, Bob. We appreciate it. Part of our segment.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I'm excited too because he started telling me all these things, and I was like, hang on, just keep those thoughts. Let's get them on the podcast because I want everybody to hear all this stuff. I'm going to get some of my questions answered as well, for sure.
Perfect. So
are you ready?
We go right into? Okay, it's the first one.
Here we go.
And they call it Tea Time with Tanya.
There it is.
The finest girl you'll ever know.
I know.
Okay, so that's enough, Scott.
So my tea time with Tanya is going to be about a few things, so it might be a little bit lengthy for everybody, but I think you'll like it. Last episode, we talked about the Utopias beer. Okay.
Right.
The Utopias beer. And it was an expensive beer. Okay.
It was $250 for a single bottle.
For a single bottle of beer.
And it was a fancy bottle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a bottle that you can keep and put on a shelf and save it forever. But I was like, God, Scott, that's a lot of money. But I found out a little bit of why he felt okay purchasing it. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a little lengthy. So I'll get back to why he felt okay purchasing it, because we do a documentary.
Right.
I watched a documentary.
Are you gonna? Is this why it's gonna go on so long? Is because
Maybe.
You're gonna stutter your way through this?
Probably. No. Okay. Let me pull it together. Okay.
It is a good. You told this to me before we started, and it is a good story. So I want to.
Okay.
Make sure you have enough.
So there is a documentary on Netflix, and if you haven't seen it yet, it is definitely worth the watch. I think it's a 5-series episode document, and it's about the first civilian space travel exploration. Okay, so 4 people were chosen.
Right. This is all very, very recent.
Oh yeah,
this is
last year.
Jeff Bezos thing, right? Wasn't it?
No. It's
okay.
Jared, the guy from Shift 4.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if Jeff Bezos was involved. Maybe he was. You know what? I think you're right.
Wasn't it the Blue Origin rocket or something?
Inspiration 4.
Right. Well, we have that. So I'm going to show the website here real quick.
Right.
Because this is it.
Okay. So this is Inspiration 4. Inspiration 4 is for the 4 crew members that went up in space, and the 4 crew men, as you can see, represented the mission pillars. Okay.
Let's scroll down here. Right.
So, but part of this is what I loved about Inspiration 4 was they did a fundraiser, and I don't know if I'm saying the right word as a fundraiser, but their mission was to raise $200 million, okay,
Right.
and give it to St. Jude's Hospital, which is it's a hospital for children that have cancer and
other
ailments. Diseases.
But
yeah,
that's a fun. They're raising money on behalf of St. Jude's.
$200 million to give it to St. Jude's. Okay, so and I really love St. Jude's, but the Sam Adams company decided to join Jared's contributions in this, and $100,000 of the Utopia's proceeds went to St. Jude's also.
So, and Utopia is the beer.
The beer that Scott bought, and he felt okay purchasing it for $250 because he was like, well, it's going to a cause. You know, it's being donated. Part of the money is going to St. Jude's. He's not a big beer drinker, but I don't know. I thought that was kind of a...
Well, maybe he's not a big beer drinker because he spends all his money on one bottle. I mean...
Right. But so that... But I really wanted to talk about that documentary. You guys should really watch it. It's a great documentary, very heartfelt. It's a really great story.
And what's the name of the documentary?
Countdown. And it's on Netflix.
And it's on Netflix.
You might be able to watch it on YouTube too, whatever. But I have Netflix, so it's really easy for me.
Yeah, I've seen it on Netflix. But also, if we switch to the website here, so you'd mentioned the leadership. Jared Isaacman is the founder and CEO of Shift for Payments. Mm-hmm. And we use Shift for Shop for our online web store.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we do.
So we do have a bit of a connection in there.
Yeah, I know. When I called, I had an issue with something, and they were like, well, Jared, the guy from the Countdown. So everybody kind of knows about it. But.
Right, of course. Okay.
So, and then I also, Derek Daly, thank you for posting that bottle that I talked about. It's the I Dream of Genie bottle. Yeah, right. So it's Jim Walker. Right? Yeah, it's a Jim Walker. And he said that 19 bottles were used on 143 episodes that were painted.
Oh, so this is the special, this is the weird bottle that we had. It's the I Dream of Genie bottle. Mm-hmm. And he responded that there were 19 bottles used on this TV show that they specially
I Dream of Genie
modified for the I Dream of Genie thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I saw this note that you put here and I didn't understand what it was, and now I do. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, I thought that was neat. So thank you, Derek, for posting that, because I kind of forgot, but I appreciate it.
Fabulous. And
I think that's my tea time with Tanya. So watch the Countdown documentary. It's great. And buy Utopia's beer if you want to donate to St. Jude's. If you can, if you can find it.
It's just a once a year thing, right?
Once every 2 years.
Oh, so you can't.
So it's probably gone now, yeah, because they only make 13,000.
Do you think that people buy it and then store it and then try to sell it at a profit?
I would probably. I mean, don't a lot of people do that?
I don't know. I don't know anything about beer, the specialty beer, $250 a bottle. I don't know anything about that.
I did
that is
see
a
one
world
of the,
that is foreign to me.
Yeah, I did see one of the bottles. I don't know if it was empty or if it was full, but it was worth $1,000. But it was an older one.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go. Tea time with Tanya. Tea time with Tanya is up, and now we're on to Observatory Talk with Brian.
By the way, we're going to need to do a new Tea Time with Tanya bumper.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, why didn't you say it before? Oh, because it's work for me.
I don't want to put more on your plate.
All right. So let's talk. Let's do a little observatory talk. So I'm not going to talk so much about what's happening with the remote telescope in Chile. I will show you. There's some. I'm still imaging. This is the Thor's helmet in hydrogen and oxygen. Came out
That
very
looks
nicely.
just like Thor's helmet. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's a very cool.
I've never seen this image.
Well, it's a target in the southern skies. So you don't
Right.
typically see it in the northern hemisphere. So, I mean, I guess you might be able to shoot it, but at any rate, so things continue on. I'm going to show a few other things, but I did want to point out that I've got the new. I just installed the new ZWO ASI 2600. It's a one-shot color, so it's the MC model, and it's just a really, really nice camera. This is I shot. This is no miracle target, of course. It's the Flaming Star Nebula. I shot it in RGB just over 2 nights.
Okay.
But I was really just struck by how sensitive the camera is. These weren't particularly clear nights, and again, I'm not suggesting this is some miracle photograph here, but I really liked it. It does a great job. It was easy to use. It's a very, very low noise camera, and
you have this in the Chilean desert.
no. Sorry,
Is this here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is my driveway telescope.
Okay.
I have a Skywatcher 120 Esprit.
Okay.
It's very, very modest. I love the telescope. It's very modest, but I have that the new ASI 2600 camera. I use the OAGL as in large for the off-axis guider with a little ASI or ZWO ASI 290 mini guide camera. Very, very standard setup. Super easy to set up.
And are you using the ASI Air?
Not on this one. I have a separate Quattro Newtonian that I set up for the Air, and in fact, that's going to bring me to my next thing that I wanted to talk about briefly.
Okay.
So
I'm jumping the gun here.
No, it's okay. But so I have it's a Skywatcher Newtonian. It's a Quattro. It's a 10-inch f4.
Okay.
They are. I think traditionally they're really good visual observing telescopes. But you can, if you put some time and effort and a little bit of a corrector lens in there, things like that, it actually works pretty well for imaging. It's very, very f4 is pretty fast, and I think it's about a 900 millimeter focal length, so it's pretty good. It's very comparable to the 120 Esprit I have, and about a stop faster. So that means you can gather light kind of twice the speed. But they are pains in the asses to collimate.
Okay.
And believe me, I own every collimation tool that's ever existed. Ever existed. I mean, you name it, I have it. I have the HUTEC. I have the
Farpoint. Doesn't Farpoint make one too?
Farpoint makes one. I've got a couple of Cheshires. I've got the Takahashi's got a collimating scope. I mean, I've done everything. Oh, I've got a who's the fellow that just passed away? God, I can't think. Why am I can't think of it? But it's that's the other collimation I have. It'll come to me. But pretty much everything.
Okay.
And I can, use them and I understand how to use them. But it just hasn't been that good. So I just recently got this little device.
Okay.
This is called the OCAL, OCAL electronic collimator.
Oh,
and it's actually a little bitty camera. This is probably not that interesting to look at.
Now,
like
this is
all
something
cameras.
this is something that you would just put on. It's not in line. Am I correct? This is something that you do before putting up your imaging, or
Yeah, so what happens is you basically take this, you unscrew your camera, I put a little nose piece on here and drop it in.
Okay.
And it has a bit of software that runs, and it's a camera, right? And actually, so the basic premise, more or less, I'm really simplifying this, but the basic premise of this is it gives you concentric circles that you kind of adjust to fit your primary and your secondary, and then the actual OCAL collimator, there's a little ring inside of here.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of line them up. There's no kind of assistance or anything. It's not like it says you're getting closer, you're getting further. And it seems like it really shouldn't work that well, and yet it really, really does. I'm surprised. There's a bunch of YouTube videos about this. I think it's maybe about $150, $200.
Okay.
No, it's about $200. And then if you get one that works for Android, And I'm not sure why people would do one for Android.
Okay, so
it's about $250.
So you pair this with your phone?
You actually, I think the Android version connects via the little plug in the back.
Okay, so there is a plug. Okay.
But I use the Windows application, so it's the Android version is $50 more. And
Okay.
I thought, it's the same thing. Why am I going to do that?
Right.
But the thing is, if you have a Newtonian, you might have heard about it, OCAL collimator. Unfortunately, you can only get these via, I think AliExpress. It comes direct from China.
Okay.
But it works surprisingly well. It really did. And I'll have to show some images from that. So I just wanted to mention that briefly.
Yeah, so you're always giving good tips.
Yeah. And then I do want to also talk a little bit about, we're going to get into this notion of maintenance and kind of protecting your equipment.
Yes.
Not many people know this, but I personally, I have a telescope of my own. I've obviously got the one in Chile that I manage and operate every night.
Right.
I've got my own personal telescope in the driveway that I run and operate as often as I possibly can.
Right.
And then I have between 1 and 2 additional setups that I use for Losmandy specific things, whether or not it's testing new stuff, maybe putting customer mounts up there. They've sent it in for something and they want us to check it out. We'll actually test that under the night sky. So on any given month, on any given night, I might be running, 3, maybe 4 telescopes. And these are ones that I have to set up and get running pretty much, that afternoon. And so I'm doing a lot of setups. I'm doing a lot of automation. I'm doing a lot of just getting things to work as quickly as possible.
Right.
And so
That can take a lot of time.
It can take a lot of time, but I don't have a lot of time. So it's got to be, it's got to be chop, chop, chop. So I have a few things that I like to use for my own personal, protection and maintenance of things, because I do things like disconnect and connect things in. I do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So let me point out in no particular order, these are 3 things that I use. The first one is called Deoxit. So this is Deoxit D5. It's a little thing. And you want to check it out there? Yeah. So Deoxit is for cleaning and improving electrical contacts. Right. So these are essentially any of the plugs where you're using, USB, you're using the motor cables, you're doing power, you're doing Ethernet. Probably maybe about once or twice a year, what I'll do is I'll use some of this. You kind of squirt it into a connector or on the plug itself, and then you insert it and remove it, kind of a handful of times. Okay. And it actually does a great job of just making sure those contacts. What are you doing?
Oh, I wanted to see what it squirted, like if it was like a lot or if it's sprayed.
Well, you don't want to be squirting it onto a piece of paper.
Everybody, here we are.
I promise you, it works. You don't want to get this stuff all over. It smells terrible.
Okay.
But Deoxit is definitely something. This is a huge can. You can get little small bits. I mean, this will probably last me the rest of my life. But
okay.
Electrical contacts, USB cables, motor cables. This is a great way to maintain connectivity and just make sure that they are working correctly. You can get a lot of buildup in those ports, especially if they're not being used.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great tip.
The second thing I'll mention is anytime I'm physically screwing something into something else, I put a little dab of something called CLP.
Okay.
This is like a little, and it's just a drop or two. This is officially the all-in-one formula to service your firearm. So I imagine it goes into firearms. Obviously.
Multi-use.
But essentially it is a cleaner, lubricant, and I can't read this, a preservative.
So like when you're doing counterweight screws into the counterweights, is that what you're thinking?
Well, so in particular, because I do take, like, for example, the counterweight bar.
Okay, yes.
And screw that in and unscrew it a lot. You want to be really careful. Because
thread pitch.
If you mess those threads up, you got to essentially almost replace the entire axis.
Right. Yeah, we've had a couple people that's happened to. So this is a great,
this is a great way to do this.
Okay.
So basically anything that involves threaded screws going into holes. So I use it also for the altitude knobs. Sometimes I'll use it for anything that's locking.
Okay.
There's azimuth locking capabilities, in the mount, that kind of stuff. So,
okay.
But this is a real handy way to Keep those just slightly lubricated and not. And also the other thing is it makes sure it doesn't kind of seize up on you.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
You want to be careful. I'm not sure. I have not used this on things like spacer tubes. And I would probably be really, I don't know if I'd be hesitant, but you really want to be careful about how much you put in there. Like maybe instead of putting a drop on there, you might put it on a little bit of a rag and just wipe just the thinnest application of it, because you don't want it to either in the sun or otherwise, have it start dripping into your optical train. Right. Next thing you know,
we
it's
use
on your
something
sensor.
very similar to that in the office. Like when we drill out, sometimes we have to drill out these little baby counterweights. We have to drill those out, and we squirt at the tiniest amount, like Brian said. Yeah,
that's true. So the last thing I'll point out is for lens cleaning.
Okay.
This kind of comes from my cinema days, but I use a product called Pancro. Pancro.
Okay.
It's expensive. It's a professional lens cleaner.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I'm not entirely sure what's in there, but I squirt a little bit of this on of course, first what I'll do is I'll take like a little brush and brush off things that are on the front element of the telescope. Put a little bit of this on a rag, soft cloth, right? And just kind of in a couple of applications, move it around and dry it off, things like that. This comes from my cinema days. So when I used to be doing a lot of movie set type stuff, these lenses are maybe $20,000, $30,000 each. So they're very sensitive about the optics, and you got to be very careful about that.
Well, those are great tips. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, and so this is a good lead-in because we've got Bob here.
Well, also, will you put the links down below of all of these products? You'll do that? Okay. I mean, you guys know that we always do that. We always do include the links, so you can always find those below. I just wanted to make sure.
Right. So now we're going to talk with Bob, and Bob is here, I know. But one of the things that I like to do is, I have telegizmos covers on all of my gear. Every last one of them. I kind of use it as an impromptu observatory or a temporary observatory. I'm out of my driveway, so.
Well, they are called. They're called 365s. They have a series called 365. So let's bring Bob on and let's.
Hey, Bob.
Hey,
how
guys.
are you doing?
Hey, thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it. It's great to see your face.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's great to see a face because I've been talking to you over the years in my OPT days, even before, and then now you just became a Losmandy customer.
Yeah.
And with your GM811.
Yeah.
How are you liking it?
Great mount.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's the first equatorial mount I've owned. I've always used Altaz, and I'm already upgrading it to the G11 deck.
Oh, that's right. You did put that order in.
Oh.
We're getting closer. Yeah. We're just going down the list.
No rush.
Yeah.
You can put me way down the list, actually. I'm good.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate that. But we definitely want to get it to you. So this episode, we're talking about how to keep your mount
protected, well maintained, sort of make sure that investment is gonna last.
And so Brian and I immediately thought of bringing you on to talk about your telegizmos. That's the name of your company, and I think you have a couple different products that you offer on your product line. So the floor is yours. Oh.
Well, where would you like me to start? Talk to us.
Well, how about the 365 series? Did you get how do you have specific covers for a telescope mount versus a telescope, or is there two covers per setup? And how do you figure out which one you need for your particular setup, like your particular mount? Like let's say for your Losmandy GM811, how would you figure out which telegizmo you need?
Well, we have several sizes, a couple of different basic design shapes. Probably the most common one or most popular one is nothing more than just a cylinder shape. And we have a variety of different heights and diameters. So it's just really a matter of matching up the best height and the best diameter combination for whatever you want to cover.
Got it.
And we have a pretty big range. So generally you can get pretty much in the ballpark, if not exactly where you want to be.
Okay, so you want to have your setup outside. take your measurements and then go onto your website and figure out which one is proper for your setup. Is that correct?
That's the best way to go about it. Now, most of the covers on the dealers' websites where they show them, it's going to say for a specific type of scope or mount, but none of them are really dedicated. That just gives kind of a roundabout idea of what that cover could handle. But yeah, it just comes down to if you've got a GM811 and you want to put a cover over it, well, just determine what the diameter of that cover needs to be at a minimum. Of course, the cover needs to be a little bit bigger, and then what height you want, and that's the one you pick. Match it up to one that's the closest to it.
Got it.
Right. Okay. And you, so Bob, you offer kind of two lines of covers, right? One is the 365, correct, and I don't even know what the other one is because
solar.
Because I need the 365. But can you speak to those two a little bit, just a little bit?
I think the question was kind of just maybe describe the difference between our standard solar cover and the 365 series.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting at. I guess that's what the other line is. There's a solar cover.
Yeah, we make two versions. Now, the interesting thing is our solar covers and our 365s have the exact product size availability. So a standard solar cover has a twin sister and a 365 and vice versa. So the standard solar covers is a good budget line cover that you can get, pretty inexpensive, but still offers full weather protection. The big difference is it's for temporary use. So by that, I mean, if you're an observer who gets out, maybe goes to a star party a couple of times a year, or you get a couple of clear nights in your backyard and you want to set up, good for that. So 2 or 3 nights here or there. And of course, for observatories or any kind of inside storage or roll off, I mean, indefinite, use it all you want, but they're not intended to be left as the name of the 365 series implies, 365 24/7. So if you need that kind of protection, then that's where the 365 comes in. And with those covers, you can pretty much leave them out indefinitely.
Right. So, and I want to be, so I just want to be clear about, because again, I mentioned I use the telegizmos. I do use the 365 covers.
And those things are heavy.
They're heavy.
They got some weight to it.
Yeah, but they got a number of layers to them. But I literally don't take apart in any way, shape, or form my telescope. I don't take the camera off. I leave the computer that's in there on. I just at the end of each night or in the morning, I will put the telegizmos 365 cover on. And in fact, just recently we had all these storms.
That's what I was going to say.
California.
And you left it. You didn't take it inside.
I did. I took nothing inside. I was a little bit nervous about this, but it rained. In one night, it rained 8 inches of rain, which is an astonishing amount of rain.
And the winds were bad too, right?
Well, for us, it wasn't. The winds weren't too bad, but I mean, it was just an 8 inches of rain storm. There's just no easy way to say it. Like, it was the brutal torture test.
Wow.
And I went out there and there was some condensation that I want Bob to speak with, but otherwise it had completely kept everything dry. And it was,
That's
my hat's
amazing.
off to you, Bob.
Bob, that is amazing.
Well, that's what they're designed to do. We've got on these 365 covers, it kind of freaks me out when I think about it, but
right.
There's probably, without exaggeration, millions of dollars worth of astronomical equipment, cameras, et cetera, around the world that are sitting under them. So it is a little scary, but that's what they're designed to do. And
Brian attests to it that it's a great.
They have to stand up to that reputation. So yeah, they provide that level of service.
Well.
So can you speak to? Because I've noticed there's at least 3 or 4 layers that I can see, because some of my cover's a little bit old. I got to get them replaced. But there's at least there. It's not just a cover. There are components to this, or there are layers to that. So can you speak to kind of what those layers are?
Well, the 365, there's 2 layers involved. The inner layer is a solar radiant barrier material. It's just a thin 7 mil thick multi-layered radiant barrier, but it's a true radiant barrier. It's aluminized. That silver is not like a mylar. That silver is actual powdered aluminum that's dispersed during a heat lamination process, but it remains very malleable. The outer layer, as you know, is a heavy canvas. It's a very high UV coated and protected canvas. So got a 10-year, I think it is, 10-year manufacturer UV rating. So very, very, very durable. The combination of the two, creates the cover. You and I talked about this previously, and I'll just mention it quickly here. Sometimes there's some confusion about why the silver's on the inside, because logic would say put it on, have the silver out like our standard solar covers to reflect light. We're using the principle of radiant science in this application, and it could be lengthy, but I'm going to keep it short. If you know anything about attic radiant barriers and how they work,
I do.
It's the exact same principle of the 365. So that's why the silver's on the inside. And because it also is protected that way by the canvas. In addition to that, multi-layers give you double protection, give you full weather protection. The seaming system we use is incredibly unique, very special. I won't drag you through all that, but all combined, you get radiant heat transfer protection, i.e. a little bit cooler environment in the cover. You get full weather protection. So yeah, the system took a while to develop, kind of complex for a cover, but then again, not too bad.
So
that's great information. I did not know they were that detailed.
Yeah. But I just want to make sure that we are clear about this. If you have a 365 cover, do not turn it inside out and put the aluminum looking stuff on the outside, right?
Correct. We send some directions with it and, emphasizing to do not do that. It still happens occasionally, but you do not turn them inside out.
I have done this in the past, and I admit
That's why you mentioned it.
I admit it, and
no, can't do that.
No. So I speak from experience. I'm like, well, this clearly must be the way it works because I probably know better than everybody. And of course, after about 3 months of that, it just started falling apart, and I replaced it, not thinking much. But then, as Bob was talking, I was just like, I'm an idiot.
Right.
I'm a certifiable idiot. And Bob, you bring up a good point because when we use radiant barrier, for example, in the garage that we were just doing, you put it on the inside, right? You don't put it on the top of your roof. You put it on the inside, right? So that makes that's a good example of that. It makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, it does. I actually even understood that.
So let's talk a little bit about condensation management, because a lot of people, well, again, let me go back to that experience. So there's an 8-inch of rain in one night deluge. Nothing of mine got rained on.
Okay.
And this is a full setup, right? We're talking about the camera, the computer, the telescope. I mean, if something bad had happened, it would have been catastrophic. So when I did take it off, it had not been rained on, but there was some dampness to it.
Some dew, yeah.
And that was from the condensation. And so, Bob, you and I were talking about that a little bit. Would you mind just sort of kind of talking about the topic of condensation? Like, how much do we need to think about it? Obviously, it relates to using the covers, and maybe sort of give us some advice in the way that you think about condensation and things that we need to think about.
Well, condensation management is probably the most critical thing with the covers because, moisture obviously can damage electronics and et cetera. So let's take your scenario where you put the cover on and you got an 8-inch rain, you still had condensation develop inside the cover. That's because dew point temperature was reached inside the cover, and then the surface condensated, the scope, amount, et cetera. The best way to manage that is to keep the temperature inside the cover above the dew point. And there's a variety of different ways you can do that. We prefer to recommend using heat sources instead of a desiccant to try to absorb moisture, because that's sort of an after the fact approach, whereas keeping the heat up is more proactive. And there's a variety of methods you can do that with. So even in the short term, i.e. one night experience like you had you had the time or the opportunity, it would have been advisable to add some heat there. For long term, since we're on it, I'll mention it is critical. You need to manage this and keep a heat source in there. Now, if you're in Arizona, it's a different story. But where you're located, for example, and all around the world, this is a factor. So it's something you have to manage.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So what I did end up doing, I think after you and I had that brief conversation, I did end up buying some small heat sources. The purpose of them originally, if you go onto Amazon,
Okay.
is they are gun safe heaters, and I picked those because they're relatively low wattage. I think they're about 10 watts. You can touch them; they're warm to the touch, but they're not going to heat up to the point of catching something on fire or melting something.
Okay.
And that they come in sort of a big long metal tube in various lengths, from I think about 7 inches to 18 inches, so I could strap them onto my mount.
Okay.
And essentially just leave them on there.
Like you strap it onto the tripod leg?
So in one case, I do strap it onto the tripod leg. In the other case, I have a pier extension, so I just kind of strap it on there.
Okay.
And so is that the kind of thing that you, Bob, when we talk about kind of heat and having radiant sources, is that the kind of thing that you're thinking about?
Yes. And one of the other things too, I'll mention, when you're using heat, if you want to keep it in there, and it's always advisable, we say close the cover up as best you can, at the base of the mount. Don't worry about letting it go down, cover the tripod legs, because then you're open to let moisture migrate up.
Oh, right. That makes sense. Okay.
Actually defeating to the heat. So if you can, it's always advisable to close the cover up. When you have the added heat source in there, then that's what's going to keep it maintaining its temperature above the dew point. So it's a lot more effective that way. With the radiant liner, that works both ways. It's going to, while it's blocking thermal transmission from exterior, i.e. sun, that sort of thing, it's also heat on the inside is being radiated. A good analogy would be if you put a space blanket around your body heat will keep you warm by the blanket reflecting it back on you.
Right.
So the heat you're creating in the cover remains in the cover, and it's very effective. So that's how that low wattage heat source can really keep things warm in there.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, because I think I learned something just now. I've always thought about the covers as is covering up as much as possible, right? All the way to. In fact, I bought from one of my mounts. It's an equatorial mount, and it's the 120. It's my Esprit, so it's a refractor. But I bought a Dobsonian, which goes all the way to the ground. I mean, this thing's got to be like at least 7 feet tall or something. I bought the biggest one I possibly could. But Bob, I think what you're saying is that's not so critical. What you need to do is, and I think there's a little elastic.
Yeah, because the tripod legs can get wet.
Yeah, but there's like a little elastic or bungee cord kind of thing that comes with the mounts. I'm sorry, with the covers. And you're saying actually the length is less important than kind of cinching that up and making that work by closing off the bottom of the cover. Do I get that correctly?
Yeah, that's essentially it. Key thing is you're there to protect the mount, the camera, the scope, and all the electronics up in that area of it, of your setup.
Sure.
So typically that's going to be above the hub. And by hub, I mean the base of the mount where it connects to the tripod. So we consider that the best point of closure. Now, in most cases, the bottom of the cover where the bungee is not going to hit that point. The simpler thing to do is just snug the cover, pull the slack out of the cover at that point, and put an exterior bungee on it. So just hook it up there and close it off.
Got it.
But that might leave, well, obviously that's going to leave the tripod somewhat exposed. There may be enough skirt left on the cover below the close-off point to get some of the tripod. So if you need to protect the tripod, and in particular, a lot of setups have a tray there, or they're keeping batteries down there.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Then the ideal setup is to get us one of our tripod covers, which covers specifically sized for any tripod out there that's set up. Or if it's a pier, then get a cover that you can take all the way down as far as you can. A pier is great for closure, so it doesn't have to be at the hub. But tripod's a secondary cover is advisable. Closing the cover up for the gear, the scope and the mount is in our opinion, one of the best ways you can manage issues. I mean, it's not just condensation. I mean, I've gotten stories about critters, being a big issue, blowing in dust. If you're in Arizona and you like to leave it open because it's dry, but you're going to get a lot of dust blow up in there. So closing the cover is the first step. heat source, second step for condensation. And then I gotta say, summary statement is just managing the weather, being aware of the weather, being aware of what you need to do. Just don't throw it on and walk away. It's not an observatory.
Right. Good point.
Well, that's fair, but I kind of do use it as an observatory, and then.
Well, it is an observatory in a sense. Yeah, I was just making the point, but yes.
Right. So it's more than just throw it on and forget about it. Just be thoughtful about it.
That's it. Just be thoughtful, be aware of your weather, and keep it all in mind. Yeah, I mean, the real benefit of a 365 or even our standard cover, I mean, yes, provide the weather protection, know you can keep your equipment safe. But really what they bring to the hobby is just more fun. You do have to manage it a little bit. You got to take care of it a little bit. But
sure,
leave, like you're saying, you can leave your stuff out there. You don't have to set it up every night. If you don't have to
that's a huge deal for me.
You're going to use it more. And if you use it more, you're going to get more fun out of it. So,
exactly.
Right.
Good.
100% true.
Yep. So, well, thank you, Bob. I've learned about a lot. I know that Brian's learned some also. Thank you. I'm sure all of the Losmandy mount owners know a little bit more. What is your website? And I know that you have authorized dealers, but what is your website that they can go to and purchase?
telegizmos.com.
And I'm going to spell that for everybody, just in case they don't know. It's telegizmos.com. Telegizmos.com.
We'll put that in the description.
Good idea.
And we also encourage our customers to support our dealer base too.
Yes.
Our dealers are great for us, and they pretty much handle, all our exposure. So check out our dealers too. They're very knowledgeable and very good.
Yes. That's how I found out about Bob, was we sold the telegizmos to OPT. So yes, our dealers are great. We have all this, probably the same ones. So, thank you again. What was that?
Bob, thank you again. Thank you for taking the time. I know we kind of bugged you about this, and you are so generous with your time. And
yes,
again, it was great having you on. Thanks for those tips.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. Tanya, it's good to see y'all and via video, and enjoy it.
Yes, I'll be talking to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, now that was great information. Yeah. I'm really excited that he did that for us. So get your telegizmo cover for your GM8, GM811, G11, and your G11T mounts. All right, to protect them. Now, just a couple other things that I wanted to talk about that are Losmandy products that
protect and maintain your investment in your Losmandy mount.
Right.
Got it.
This right here is our Losmandy maintenance kit. It's part number LMMK. Okay. This is basically, it's just a grease. We have a video on it. Okay.
And we have a video, and we have we have a YouTube video. We'll put that in the comments as well, and we have a link in the description of the video. We have a link to this kit.
Yeah, right? And basically, what you're gonna get like your acid brushes, your solvent, your low temperature grease, and some cloths in here. Okay, and this will help protect your mount by keeping it clean and re-greasing it nicely. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that the mount doesn't really require a lot of maintenance, but maybe once every year or two, it's good to just clean out or to clean and re-lube.
Dirt, dust,
certain parts of it. And we do have that video that Scott personally did himself about how to do this, so it's going to be very handy.
We do send one of these little, what are these called, QR codes that you made for it? Okay, and you just take your camera, scan it with the camera, and it will pop up the YouTube video. Okay, this comes in the LMMK. So
we did that?
We did.
That's smart.
I know.
Who came up with that? Oh, I see.
I mean, sometimes I amaze myself. Just kidding. Well, okay, so let's give the credit to Scott on this one. He came up with the RA extension kit.
Okay, so the second thing, so we got the cleaning and re-greasing kit. Now we got the RA extension. And why is this in the maintain and protect topic?
I've picked up that 35-pound mount without one of these, just as one piece.
It's a one-piece thing.
Yeah, and it's heavy. 35 pounds, and you're lifting it up on your pier or on a tripod,
right.
I mean, that can be, and so people have dropped them because of it. Yeah. And so if you have an RA extension, it's a quick release to split your mount in half. I know that we have a video on this too. So it makes your G11, it makes your G11 mount It automatically comes on the G11T, but it makes your G11 mount 17 and 18 pounds, okay? And I'm trying to...
So it splits the RA axis and the deck axis, so you can pick them up and put them on separately.
Yes, exactly. I'm not doing
this is impressive so far. Oh, there you go.
Okay. So there we go. So it's a flange. This side goes on the deck axis. This side goes on your RA axis, and then you just stick them together. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And it's a quick release. I do this all the time because, as I mentioned, probably a million times now.
Yeah. So if you have the tucked motor version of the mounts, you want to order the RAEXT. Okay.
T as in tucked motors?
Yes, T as in tucked motors. And it's also available in the configurable mount. So a lot of people just add it on to the configurable mount.
Okay, and if you don't have tucked motors, if you have an older mount...
You need to order the RAEXK. Okay,
Right.
that just stands for kit.
Right.
And it comes with this extra deck saddle piece. Okay, so you're going to put that under your G11 saddle plate to raise up the deck, to raise that up a little bit. Am I right?
Yeah, to raise up the telescope, because otherwise it would just be too low for the motors.
Right.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So this is a great way to have a quick release to make it a little bit lighter on our backs.
Yes, so RAEXT is the kit for a tucked-in motor mount. RAEXK, as in
The older, the what?
kickball. What's K? K as in kickball?
Kit. RA extension kit.
Oh, and that's for the older mounts that have the non-tucked-in motors.
Correct. Right.
And this is for the G11. The G11T, which
it comes with it automatic. Yeah, it comes with it automatically.
And then the GM811.
Yes.
But not the GM8.
Not the GM8. The GM8 doesn't weigh a lot, and I think that's why Scott hasn't really focused on it. I think it might weigh 22 pounds. I mean, it's pretty light.
It's a small mount for sure. I
So,
like to use it as a traveler mount kind of thing. So.
But the GM811, that's 28 pounds, so it's getting up there a little bit more.
Got it. Okay.
So that will help you to not drop your mounts.
RA extension kits, yes. And if you buy it in the configurable mounts, all those options are kind of you can configure the mount when at the time that you purchase it.
Yep.
And you can actually save a couple bucks there.
Yeah, you can save $55. I mean, a lot of people buy this anyways. I mean, it's a popular accessory.
Yeah, I love mine.
Yeah,
for sure. I love mine.
Yes. And so it's we replaced this other piece. So by replacing that other piece, we give you credit towards it.
Sure.
So,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the packing material, because I know first of all, we spend a lot of money and effort to build boxes and foam that fit and protect the gear when we ship it.
Correct.
And it's really important. I mean, I think the tip here is keep your boxes and keep your foam.
It is. I mean, some people send their mounts in here to service instead of buying the grease kit themselves. We do offer that service. It's $250, and it's best to ship it back in the foam.
Yeah. So any sort of service, or if you're shipping it because you sold the mount, the packaging is just so important, because not only does it protect it, but we have received things from people, from customers who have an issue, or they want to have us do some service work or whatever.
The tucked motors upgrade.
We do upgrades and things like that. And they have come in, and I've seen some of this stuff, like an Amazon box with a bunch of peanuts in there, and the mount is damaged.
Oh, it's trashed. Yeah. I mean, because these mounts are heavy, so how we ship it in the foam, it's the mount head's sent in 2 different pieces, and it's protected and all that good stuff. So
right. So we want to make sure that people, if you're going to maintain and protect and think about your mount, keep those boxes. I know they're a little bit, they're not really that big, but they're big enough that you want to think about it and find a place to store them, because they're invaluable if you ever need to ship this thing for any reason. I know we all say to ourselves, like, we'll never need to ship it, and then we do.
Exactly. No, I mean, just a suggestion, what you could do is break down the boxes and fold them flat, and then just put the foam so it takes up a little bit less space. So
let's talk briefly about one other thing that we get a lot of questions on, and that is the clutch discs.
Okay.
So very little of the mount really needs to do sort of standard maintenance. I mean, I've used my mount for probably 10 years now, and I have not really done any maintenance on it to say. I mean, I probably should.
Well, you give it to Scott to do that.
No, I don't actually. I mean, Scott. I mean, to be perfectly
I'm
honest,
just kidding.
What Scott does is he says, "Hey, would you like to try this upgrade?" And I'm like, "Sure," and I give it to him. Then he starts drilling holes into my mount. But he doesn't do any maintenance.
I know. I don't think he's re-greased it or anything. No.
No, yeah. So at any rate, but the clutch discs are something that we get asked about.
Okay.
Often. And I want to point out, so there's two things, right? So one is, what happens if a clutch disc is slipping? What do we think about that? What do we advise people to do?
My first thing is to clean it, to clean the area, because sometimes some of that grease does drip, like on hot days, it does get down in there. So again, Scott made a video on how to clean your clutch pads. It's very, very, very simple with just some alcohol.
Right.
That's going to be the first thing. Some people, we used to have another disc. It was the older disc, and they were a little bit slippier. The new, so Scott recognized that.
It's a kind of a polymer or something.
Yeah, and then so now Scott replaced it. It's been here ever since I've been here, so I didn't know the other ones, but like a nylon clutch pad. So a lot of people will buy the newer clutch pads to be able to replace it because they're a little bit stickier.
Right, because clutch pads have a trade-off. There's the idea that when you tighten it down, it stays and it sticks. But also you don't want it to stick so much that it's going to cause damage.
Right.
Also, some people like to kind of snug it down a little bit, but not all the way, and be able to move the mount to use the Gemini as a push-to mount. So
right.
Physically move those two axes to point it whatever it is you want to do. Don't
Right.
do with the go-to, and that's fine. And I think part of the reason that Scott moved to a kind of a stickier clutch disc is because historically there were more people doing visual observing.
Right.
And now we have people who are doing a lot more imaging. And that the stickier clutch disc where you're not doing the push to type of thing is more important.
Right.
So the last topic is unrelated to maintenance and protection, but it is the 30-year anniversary of the introduction of the G11 mount, right?
Yes, our flagship. So happy birthday, G11. We're gonna, and last year with the t-shirts, that it was everybody loved getting their t-shirt with their mount orders.
Oh, with the Antithecura mechanism in there.
Yes, and it was a great t-shirt. Everybody loves it. So this year we got a new design in celebration of the G11. I didn't send it to you, but I'll send it to you, and maybe you can put it in a link down below underneath the video.
Yeah, I think we just didn't quite get it done in time for the podcast, but
Right.
we will put a link to the picture in the description below.
Right, and we're going to continue this with all the mount orders from this year. So if you ordered your mount if you ordered it last year, you'll still get the 40th year anniversary. But if you order a mount from January 1st on, you'll get the 30-year anniversary t-shirt of the G11G.
Yes, and I like the shirt.
It looks good,
I'm kind of a nerdy hardware guy, and you'll see it. Take a look at the description. You'll see the link. But
Yeah.
I really like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. So I'm excited to send those out to all you mount owners.
Fabulous.
You future mount owners.
Okay, anything else we need to talk about?
No, that's it.
We're going to
Thanks for
jazz up
listening.
this is the new place, so we're going to jazz it up a little bit more. I'm sorry, I know it says in color, and it's not really in color, but we're going to do our best on that.
Well, we're in color.
Goodbye, Tanya.
Bye, Brian. Thanks, everybody. It was great seeing you again. Happy New Year.
Yay.
Have a great year. Bye.
That was fabulous.
They used to have this in like studio signs. Do you know what I'm talking about?